to this, and that others can access it as well. We know it was a short time frame to get this turned around and get it out there for everyone to see, but we do have some next steps that we hope that you'll see some of these things again with your curricular content facilitators and coordinators. So welcome to all of you that are here. Just to get us started, I want to remind us that Dr. Miles has been, he had another video come out yesterday talking about our 4 priorities, and priority 3 is that we'll continue our instruction and give feedback of our essentials. And so this came out of some of the Kick-Up survey data that maybe some of you guys took, and that 44%, this was as of Monday, 44% of teachers were asking for alternative ways to assess student understanding. And so we've been watching some webinars and looking at some different data. And so we put together an infographic that this presentation is based on that we'll show you a little bit later on, but this is in response to your needs, and we want to be able to help regardless of what level you teach. We want to be here to support you in helping you figure out ways to do that both formatively and summatively. Whether we give grades or not give specific grades, we want to give you that, how to give that powerful feedback to our students. So just to let you know who we are, I am Jennifer Swartz. I'm one of our data analysts, and I taught in the elementary world for about 16 years, and before coming to this data analyst position, so I bring some elementary examples to this.
My name is Elissa Perrin. I taught at Eureka High School for 12 years, and I was biology and forensics, and this is my 2nd year in the data department. So I'm going to bring some examples from my classes, some formative feedback and summative feedback from things I've done.
I'm Brian Coop. I taught for 10 years at Rockwood Valley. I've been moderating Zoom calls for about a week and a half now. So, that's my experience.
All right, so we were able to say hello to some of you and get to know who you were as you came in, but I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll, which is one way. We'll talk about how you can get some formative feedback when you're with your students. So I'm going to launch a poll to find out who is here with us. So you should see a question pop up on your screen. So if you'll go ahead and choose, and if you are in multiple places, go ahead and choose more than one. So I'm going to give, looks like we have
about 2/3 have done it.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, and then now I'm going to share the results with you. And so you can see the poll automatically shows you the highest number. And so we have the highest percentage of our people that are on with us today are grades 6 through 8, but looks like we do have one person who supports, you can see the numbers, 1 out of 17 supports K2, 3, 5, 5, 9 through 12, and 13 of you are 6 through 8. So this is just a quick and easy way to get some questions out there to your students. And it's good to know who's on call with us today. So welcome to all of you. All right, Brian.
Are we still sharing the results? So norms for today, if you've not been on very many Zoom calls, but it always helps if people are muted so that we don't hear kids running through the room or dogs barking or whatever. Everyone can hear the person talking. So another thing you can do is use the chat feature down here at the bottom of your screen. It kind of disappears so bring your mouse to the bottom and you'll see chat. That's where you can raise your hand if you'd like to, and then I'll see it and I'll alert the speaker to, when they're done talking, that you've got a question, or you can type something into the chat room, and that way everyone can see your question.
All right, so Alyssa's going to get us started.
So when we got the feedback that you guys were wanting some information about the heart of good assessment, or what a good assessment would look like, especially in this scenario, we went ahead and put this together. You know, I've heard the word distance learning and online learning tossed around, but that's not really what we're doing, right? It's an emergency remote situation. We all kind of got tossed into this. No one asked for it. No one was ready for it. So just kind of being cognizant of that and trying to figure out and navigate as we go through. So we kind of broke the presentation up into 3 chunks for you. This first part's just going to be talking about what's really really at the heart of good assessment in general, and what's at the heart of good assessment kind of what we're going through right now. Then we're going to go through some formative examples, like the tenets and the strengths behind formative assessment and some examples of that. And then we're going to finish up the presentation, with summative examples and kind of brainstorming some of those things. There's a ton of resources embedded in this, and we can send out the presentation to you. It's also on the Canvas ALP site if you haven't been there yet, and we can show you that at the end if you'd like. But there's links embedded. Almost every single picture has a link to where we got it from, or videos and all kinds of good stuff throughout. So great presentation to use if you want to kind of go some of the places we go during the course of this. So kind of getting into the idea behind this, and Jen, you can go to the next slide. In this time especially, we really have to keep at the heart of what this is, and that's to be flexible and to really get down to the essentials. Flexibility, because we all need flexibility. Our lives are crazy right now. I have a 2nd and a 4th grader at home that I'm trying to get them to do their assignments and get activity into the day and do this. So we're all juggling. So kids are doing that too. They're being flexible. They're watching their siblings. Things are going on. So we have to really keep that at heart here. And some kids can't get on. I know my kids don't have the same access some of the week that they do other parts of the week. And get down to those essentials. If you haven't done that with your PLC or with your curriculum coordinator yet, really get down to what do we really need to be doing, because we can't just keep doing exactly what we were doing in the classroom prior to leaving. It's not the same situation, not the same thing going on anymore. So as we were going through, Jen and I kind of stumbled along this mnemonic device, and I loved it. So it's an online learning, like wayfinding, I guess you could say. Now more than ever, kids are experiencing information alone in a way they haven't before. Usually they're at school, we're doing group activities, and now they're experiencing a lot of this on their own. So I think it's really important in this specific environment more than ever to really bring yourself back to those core ideas. And Oreo is great because it just helps you remind, and who doesn't like Oreos? But the objective, really, what is your objective of this lesson? What responsibility do kids have in the lesson, like for their learning and, throughout the project or whatever it is that you're doing? What are your expectations? I know we always have those, but you have to be explicit about it in this type of situation, because they need to know what it is that they need to do. They're juggling a lot, and they're learning a whole new way of balancing their schoolwork. And to help with that one, that organization, that O at the end, is really helping them and scaffolding for them some organization to how they can get to the end of creating work for you or showing you what they've learned. So if Jen could click on this for me, we went ahead and linked in this picture that I created the sheet that we found online. And this is really just a planning guide for you when you're planning a formative or summative assessment, planning something for them to create, for you just to kind of map out in your brain or physically write down, because some of us like to write down, what is our objective? What responsibility do they have? What is our expectations for them? And then how can we help them organize, this process? So just a great mnemonic device, that something to bring you back to the core of what we're doing and just help you kind of in planning these activities.
So continuing with that same Oreo mnemonic device, this was a visual that AJ Giuliani shared during one of the webinars we were on the other day. And I'll click on it because you'll be able to click on it as well and to see the entire visual. But I just wanted to pull out some that I thought were more specific to our assessment conversation and as we're offering feedback to our students. And so one of the first things is to continue to do, we've been talking a lot about that asynchronous learning versus the synchronous learning, and to have a balance of the two. So we're not saying, I guess, not to do the synchronous learning, but knowing that we, as Alyssa said, our students are in a variety of places, an opportunity, whether they can get on, when they can get on. I know we have 3 people in my house that sometimes are on a Zoom call at the same time, and that's not necessarily always working, depending on who is helping during the day. And so just allowing for that asynchronous learning for students to be able to work at things at their own pace and having time to absorb those outside of also having some of those connections, because those are important as well, as we know, to for us to see our students and for them to see each other and work together as well. Also, as we stated before, less is more. Really drilling down to those essentials, or what are those priority standards, or what have we pulled out? I know at the elementary level, we're looking just more specifically at what are those that we've chosen to focus on just during this time. And so being realistic of what the expectations are, and really only, we don't need to do any busy work, just what are those skills that we need to focus on to make sure students are ready for that next level. Specify those expectations. So thinking back to that Oreo mnemonic device, really laying out for students what those expectations are and what the time requirements could be. We'll talk about some summative examples and that we do want them to be open-ended, but we also want to make sure that we are laying out some clear organization. We know some of our students struggle in a face-to-face setting in the classroom. So in a setting like this where they may not have the support at home with them, or just all this time, how can we help organize them and support them in this time? And the last one is just to, again, seek student feedback. We don't want to teach the same way. This is a whole different opportunity. As Alyssa said, this is a great opportunity to let students share how they prefer to learn things or what pace. We really need to get away from due dates again, because we don't know what student situations are. So we can have a suggested time frame and a timeline to help them stay on track, but then getting their feedback as well about how they're doing social and emotionally as well. So just continuing to seek their feedback and to make sure that they feel supported as well. And then, oh my gosh, what an amazing time to really think about these cross-curricular opportunities and being able to pull in, not only math, science, but then also social studies and ELA, and creating those meaningful cross-curricular activities where we could even bring in some of our other content teachers, whether it's an art teacher, a music teacher, PE, some of our CTE teachers, to help our students with maybe some of those STEM activities. So where students aren't having to do things in isolation and packets and things like that, that they're able to really show their evidence of their learning in a variety of ways, creating all of those cross-curricular activities. So this is the infographic that we created that really this presentation is around. So as you can see, we're going to chunk it into that formative assessment, what it looks like, what are some examples of it, what do we do with it in this alternate learning plan, and then what does that summative look like as well. And same thing, what is it, how can we do it with our students? So we're going to start with formative assessment. And remember, formative assessment is that assessment for learning. It's something that we're doing with our students, not to our students. And so it's really driving our students understanding some of the things that we're putting out there, and what are some ways we can do that in this new distance learning, alternate learning plan. So things to remember, what are some of those tenets of formative assessment? Students should know where they're going. They should know where they are on that journey, how to close that gap if they don't understand something. And remember, it needs to be specific. We need to make sure that, feedback doesn't mean giving a grade. It's actionable and it's specific, so that students know where they are. And so giving specific feedback, I know one of the examples we're going to share in a minute, students can actually get in and they can give that verbal feedback back and forth even to each other. It should be flexible. Again, knowing our students are in a variety of situations. They may not be able to be on at the same time as everyone else. And that lends itself to this last one, that it should always be asynchronous as well as synchronous. All right, so Alyssa's going to give us some examples.
So in some of the webinars that we've been watching, one I was watching with Jay McTighe the other day, he really called out how this is so different in the fact, like I said earlier, kids are alone in a way that they haven't been alone, or, that haven't ever taken online classes or anything before. So that self-assessment is really, really important right now. So that's why we kind of broke formative assessment up into these two, self-assessment and then that traditional teacher directive formative assessment. So in talking about self-assessment right now, it's really important when a student's navigating their learning at home with a parent or, without you, or maybe totally on their own, that they're really getting a good idea, like I said, with that map, where are you going, where are they on the path, and how can they kind of close those gaps. So if you, we're all using self-assessment, but maybe try and beef up the self-assessment, give them the tools to do that themselves and be checking in on themselves at all times. So it's not just all on you checking what they know. So I gave you a few examples here. On the top, scoring guides. I linked a scoring guide I used to use for my labs there. You probably already have them because you were grading them with activities. Provide them to the kids if you haven't already, and let them check along the way. Have conferences with each other about that. Have conferences with you about where they think they are on the scoring guide. It's super powerful. I'm going to have Jen click on the not there, almost there, got it. These are sheets I used to use in my classroom, and they're super easy to make. And we just provide them at the end. And I'm gonna have her scroll down to the bottom because it's a little more applicable. But here it's actually giving a learning target, whatever the essential thing is that you're assessing, and it's really having the kid go, can I do this or can I not do this? And breaking it down into small chunks. So whether you provide it to them digitally, whether you put it in a Google form, it's a quick way for them to really see what parts of this am I missing? And then you can take that data that they're sharing back with you and go, okay, we're gonna do specific instruction on these days. Another one I threw in there that I just made really quickly was a Google form. You could do those not there, almost there, got it sheets, or this one's actually like on content that I would have done when I taught forensics. At the top, I'm having them kind of rate themselves like, hey, where am I on this concept? I don't even know what it means, or like I could do this in my sleep, and they can kind of get an idea. Then, I mean, as a teacher, you know, what are the parts that are sticking points for kids? So I just thought of all the sticking points on calculating this specific thing. I threw them in there so they could check, oh yeah, I don't know how to do that. I'm struggling with that. Oh no, I got this part. So they can go through and kind of analyze for themselves. And I put an other in there. Sometimes kids are just, I don't even know where to start, or they come up with something you maybe didn't come up with. And then I gave them some opportunities to try it with a little bit of scaffold. And then if you didn't know, kids can submit stuff to Google Classroom too. So on the bottom, it's add a file. And Jen asked me a great question this morning when we were talking about this. Where will you see that? It comes back in an Excel sheet. It'll literally give you a link in Google Drive to a picture, to an audio file, whatever it is that they submit there. So they can actually submit some of their own learning. So this is kind of combining that self-assessment with some teacher-directed assessment. So I can see what they're doing, and maybe they can see what they're doing, and then maybe go back and answer some of those questions. And the last one I included on the slide was audio and video reflections. We do this a lot in online classes for our online PD that we've done. And I know I did it with kids when I was in the classroom, but just giving them a second to think through a problem or reflect over what they learned or reflect about how they're feeling or whatever it is that you're taking the temperature of. One thing I would say too, just to keep an eye on, is the size of those videos. Give them like a time frame. The bigger the video is, the more space it's going to take. So if you're worried about the size, make them do audio. But this is a really great way for them to kind of think through what it is that they're doing and where they are in their learning. And then to go to that teacher directed.
And this was, oh, sorry, I realized I was muted. This is where those student reflections in Google Docs now, if a student put a picture of something, they can actually record themselves giving their comments or what they were thinking when they created that or when they did it, or how did they work out that problem, things like that. So it's just another way, and we'll show you where that link is to get some more of those feedback examples.
And I saw on the chat real quick, I saw it pop up that Mary Kay, hi Mary Kay, said, is it only in Google Forms that you can do this? No, you can submit a file in Google Forms. You could do it in Canvas. You could submit it actually through the Google Classroom. You could have a kid email it to you. It really is whatever level you're comfortable with technology-wise, whatever feels comfy to you and to your kids. I would say use that method to help them have them submit these forms of creation for you. So in that second, oh, you're welcome. In that second self-directed formative assessment, like this is teachers, you know, we do this all the time, right? This is our bread and butter, checking in with our kids and figuring out who they are, but we have to relearn how to navigate that now that they aren't sitting in our classroom. So we've kind of already talked about this, but have them provide evidence of their learning via a picture, video, you know, audio. I heard of one kid, you know, drawing stuff out in chalk, sidewalk chalk on the outside. I know that's a big thing right now with people taking walks. So they can display their learning outside, take a picture of it, show it to you, and they could be teaching their kids in their neighborhood about things that they're learning by creating a chalk drawing. Could be as simple as that.
Yeah, my neighbor called it sidewalk science.
There you go. I like it. I like it. So just as simple as kind of what we're doing right now, having a conversation. I feel like all of us would feel, if we got to give an assessment in class where we're just talking with the kid and talking through a problem and really seeing what they know and what they don't know, then that's probably the most powerful type of assessment you can do. You can do that on here. You can do it in Zoom calls. So you can get a chance to do that. Another thing in class all the time, one of my go-tos was, hey, let's work out this problem and hold it up, or, you know, let's all share a model that we're doing. So you can do that with whiteboards. You could do that here. Here's a piece of paper. You could hold it up to the screen if you have a piece of paper. Or if you haven't experienced it yet, you can actually share a whiteboard in here. So I'm going to show you really quickly. You guys shouldn't share right now, but I'll show you. If you scroll down to the bottom, there's a green share button. And when you push it, it gives you the ability to share an actual whiteboard. If you're on a computer, And you can also do it on an iPad. They will not work on a Chromebook, but you can do it on one of those devices. And you get this, actual whiteboard. So a kid could be working out a problem with you. I mean, my 4th grader was on with his teacher the other day, and he was sharing his screen and doing some math problems just to get them into the swing of things. So really, really easy way for you to share something. Each of the kids could be doing something, whether it be physically with a piece of paper and sharing it in a Zoom call, or digitally, however fancy you want to get with it. So I'm going to let Jen reshare the PowerPoint because I exited out for her.
All right.
And then another thing that we stumbled across, we went to, I don't know if you guys remember AJ Giuliani from last year's conference, but we went to one of he's doing like weekly assessment conferences that are awesome. And he shared this graphic, and it was actually made by a guy named John Spencer a few years ago. But it's basically 3 types of student conferences you can have, and really calling it to the point of what's the focus of this type of conference, what's the teacher doing, what's the student doing, to kind of clarify for you. So it's outlining feedback, reflection, and mastery. You can see those across the top. And in a feedback conference, it's really targeted help, and it's really the kid asking you questions. Hey, what do you think about this? Did I do this correctly? They're actually generating the questions, and the teacher's answering the questions. For a reflection one, which is, back to the self-reflection piece, this is really teacher answering questions, and then the teacher asking questions, and then the student being able to generate some answers to those and work their way through how they feel or what they think or what they learned in those. And then the mastery one, I absolutely could be formative mastery or summative mastery. And this is maybe more of a back and forth, like that conversation that we were talking about, conferencing, working our way through what do you actually understand and getting to the point of what you learned from whatever the activity it is that you were doing. So I just really like that. If you click on this, it's also linked. You don't have to click on it now, but, or you can. It's linked to the actual blog that this came from, and it actually extends. John Spencer extended this, and I think this is the guy that actually wrote the books with AJ Giuliani, but it extends to further application and the role of cultivating growth mindset. So it kind of goes through some more things with that, but we just wanted to include kind of the 3 different types of conferences there.
All right, so some great examples. So again, now what? What do we do with that? Once we've done some formative assessment with our students, what do we do? And so it's that feedback piece that is just so, it's the main reason why we're doing it, right? And so this links actually to that little webinar that I was talking about that gives some examples. Brian Reed was doing a webinar, a Zoom meeting with Marietta Kozatek and a teacher from another district, and just giving different feedback. And one of the examples he shares is how in a Google Doc, a student could do an audio recording as a comment to a picture or something, or even words or something that's in a Google Doc. So just again, another way to give feedback, but really it should be directing those small groups. So then, maybe if you sent out a Google, the survey, or had your students fill out that they are not yet, say you were hoping that they would be at a certain place by Friday. So maybe Wednesday or Thursday, you're sending something to them to see where they are, so that you can give some feedback and give some reteaching on specific topics. And so one of the things you can do is you can break them into groups, whether, virtually, like just assign them to a different group and invite them in, or even in a large group setting, you can teach, assess, and reteach all with these Zoom breakout rooms. And so then you're providing that asynchronous instruction where students can access it or reaccess it when needed if you record them, but then also that synchronous instruction of students working together and finding out where they are with these breakout rooms. And so let's take a minute, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So in a minute, when you create breakout rooms, when you are the host, you can decide, I lost mine. Oh, nope. You can decide what students you want, there it is, what students you want in a group based on some of the formative assessment that you've done with them, or you can just put them into groups that it'll put the students into groups depending on it, however it wants. So I'm going to choose breakout rooms, and looks like we have 23 participants. So I'm going to put us in about 4 rooms, and I'm just going to do it automatically, but I can move students to one or the other if I don't like where Zoom puts them. And as the teacher, you can decide where you want that to happen. And so in a minute, you're going to see an invitation to join a room. So for a couple minutes, I would like you to talk to the people in your group, in your breakout room, about some formative assessment that you are currently doing or would like to learn how more to do more. And then I want you to practice with the help. If you click on help, the teacher can come into the room. And then I also, whenever we're finished, it will give you 60 seconds to come back to this main room. So just take a minute to talk about formative assessment. What are you currently doing, or what would you like to learn more about? And I'll see you back here in a couple minutes.
Hi guys, you can unmute yourself in here. I hear some kids. So how are you guys feeling about formative assessment or assessing it all in this plan?
For math, I teach 6th grade math. And so for us, they're doing their online math book, like where they go in and, answer questions and it's graded immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting that feedback. But I also realize that I can't do that for however many weeks. Like they're going to get tired of watching a video and then doing questions on the online textbook. So I'm looking for other ideas to use besides that.
I mean, my daughter's in elementary school in 2nd grade, but I couldn't believe the other day her teacher pushed out a Google slide presentation that she was able to use on her iPad. She just worked out all the problems and then submitted it back to the teacher. And the teacher was able to like say, hey, like, I really like what you did here. You missed this here at this spot. It was pretty cool. I was like, you're in 2nd grade and you're sharing your math work with your teacher.
How can they write if they're on a Chromebook though?
If they were on a Chromebook, they can just type, because she was doing it on an iPad. She was able to write, which was cool. But yeah, if they were on a Chromebook, they could just type, or I mean, they could make a video, just pick one problem and make a video of yourself doing this problem, working it out or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
Hey, Dana, you're muted.
I said, I'm here. I was just helping someone. So I stepped out and then stepped back in.
Good. What about you, Hope and Morgan? How are you feeling about assessing in this situation?
Pretty good. It's not my, so I teach high school math, and I have online platforms for 2 of my classes, like we do homework online. But for the other one, I'm just keeping it simple. I'm just doing kind of what we did in class, which is we don't have a textbook that we use. We just do worksheets, and I just have them do the worksheet, show all their work, and email it to me, and I give them feedback one by one like that.
So do they scan it and send it back to you, or take a picture?
Yeah, or just take a picture from their phone, and just, which has become a little bit labor intensive on my part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of thinking about other ways that I might attack that.
Dana, can you think of any ways that they might be able to?
We
Maybe
were just-
screencasting?
You mean from the student side?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just talking about that this morning, Maria and Chris and Dana and I, like some different ways that we were going to try to come up with to have kids like submit their work. Because some of the things that are happening is like, if the kid has live photos turned on their iPhone, well then, it doesn't upload the photo because it's a weird file format. So there was all this frustration going on. So we're like, let's brainstorm a list of of ways that kids can submit their work. And we're currently working on that. And so we're going to put it out, and hopefully some of those then will be things that will help you guys maybe just mix things up a little bit for kids too.
Awesome. Thanks, Dana. So they're telling us to go back to the group. So you should have a button that says return to main session on your screen. And you can
Leave
click that.
breakout room?
Yep.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Oh, my group was on it.
There were some good conversations happening in the breakout rooms. It's going to be hard to get everybody to come back. Come back.
After the 1-minute time limit to come back, does it force them to come back?
Yeah.
Yes, it closes.
Okay.
And you can set up times when you create those breakout rooms. You can tell how long you want them to stay open. If they can't stay open any longer, you can make a student in each of those rooms a host so that they can even record those breakout rooms. Any conversation that's happening in the chat, even though you're only able to chat with the people in your group, it's still being recorded in the larger chat on the side, which can also be saved at the end as well.
And I don't know if you noticed at the top, Jen was kind of typing us some messages. So as a teacher, she was popping in. As a student, you can kind of like put your hand up and request help in a breakout session. And I was engaged with my group, so I didn't, but as a host, I could have jumped into another group. So as a teacher, you can kind of jump around. Where does the recording go if the student is a host in a breakout room? I'm not sure. Dana, do you know? If a student records it, I wonder where. If it becomes part of the main recording, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that was our question in our group. If you gave somebody access to be a co-host and they recorded their breakout group, who would the kid then need to send that to you, or what?
Or add it to a Google Drive folder that had the main recording in it, maybe?
Yeah, I have to play with that.
And there's a setting before you, when you create your Zoom call, to say, hey, I want to have breakout groups, but can you make that decision? If you forgot to make that setting, could you just start doing that as well? Does that make sense?
Yes,
if you had a Zoom call that you didn't set up ahead of time to allow groups to be made, could you make the groups, like right now, if we didn't have it set up, could we say, oh, wait, I want to make groups available, make it available, and then put people in groups?
Yeah, that would have to be part of your settings, right?
You have to set it up at the beginning.
Okay, so when you make your Zoom call, you would have, or when you create your meeting, you would say, I'm going to allow group work or whatever.
It would be actually in your profile, wouldn't it, Dana? Like on your actual Zoom profile?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's just you make it once or one time only.
Yeah.
Right.
Same thing
Just
as like start with recording, start everyone muted, host on video, all that stuff is in your Zoom profile. You can go through all those and
Those
set
could
them
be
up.
default settings or whatever.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right, and there's obviously, I know there's some recordings on doing Zooms and doing some of the breakout rooms and things in our technology help guide. So if you need any help with that, feel free to reach out to your instructional technology specialist, or any of us. We're happy to help as well. All right, well, hopefully you liked, got to try out what one of those sessions feels like from a student perspective as well. But what a great opportunity to not only teach, but then to give feedback as well. So we're going to move to summative assessment, which again, formative assessment can happen during or after, whereas summative assessment is really happening after. It's a way for students to show you that true evidence of what they've learned, and have they been able to learn through that formative assessment that you've been giving them and that feedback that you've given. So what should be the things that we think about when we're thinking about summative assessment? We're ditching the memorization. We shouldn't be assessing things that are Googleable. I know this was something that we were really focused on when we were in the face-to-face classroom with our students, locking down our tests and things like that. But in this time, we can't lock down. We know students have multiple devices, right? So we don't want to assess things that are Googleable. We really want our students analyzing and synthesizing and evaluating and really showcase the learning that has happened, and let them apply it and make it meaningful and have that genuine purpose. Going back to that Oreo, what's that responsibility and what are those expectations? They should be clearly defined for the students. Really sticking with that less is more. We're focusing on the essentials and trying to make them as cross-curricular as possible, so that students are really able to, again, that showcase their learning. Be flexible. Again, we don't know our student situations. So, due dates shouldn't necessarily be the end all be all. We want students to have the opportunity to show their learning in different ways. And again, it should be synchronous and asynchronous. An opportunity maybe to come together synchronously and explain maybe your expectations, and let students maybe brainstorm in those breakout rooms, and then let the students work asynchronously, maybe checking in with them, maybe some formative type things along the way, and then synchronously maybe try to bring everyone back to view however the student is choosing to showcase their learning, whether it's a video or a picture or some of the other examples that Melissa is going to talk about here in a minute. I don't want to steal her thunder.
All right.
So
I really love what Jen just said. And really, these are good tenets of summative assessment, no matter when you're assessing. I know we're really focused on this alternative learning plan and how we're going to assess in that situation, but I don't think anything on that last slide isn't 100% true about assessment in your classroom too in a regular day. So in this specific situation, though, it's really important for us to kind of shift our thinking to performance-based tasks. So letting students submit evidence of their learning, whether it's drawing, creating, designing something, showing you what they know in some way, and really making it authentic. There's a lot going on right now. So if they're going to be doing work, make it important, make it really authentic for them. And we're in this bizarre situation where everyone's working from home. And so you can invite parents, throw it out there. Your kids are going to present something, or they're going to share something they've been working on. Invite their parents along, invite professionals from the, that work in the environment to come in and give feedback to kids formatively or summatively and let them experience. I think that really makes it a different kind of task for a student when they know they're not just presenting it to their teacher or their classmates, they're presenting it to other people outside. And we have this really cool task. I was in a workshop the other day, or, a webinar, a Zoom webinar. And literally it was someone in my role, which, I feel like I'm super low man on the totem pole. I'm not special in any way. So to see someone from a different district in a different school dream up this idea of contacting like the biggest names in assessment and saying, hey, we're going to do a Zoom call. Do you want to be on it? And they all said yes. They all just jumped on the call, and there was all these really big names there to share and work with teachers. And that's insane and so cool. And so we can dream big like that too. You have someone you really want to include, shoot big, say, hey, would you like to join my class today via Zoom? And let them come in and give the kids an opportunity, because it's just a weird situation we're in, and that's kind of a silver lining of it. So we included some summative examples here, and just very vague. We encourage you, we would love to brainstorm with you or with your curriculum coordinator or with an instructional tech about specifically how this could be in your content area, because I know that looks different in all different content areas, but we just wanted to give you some ideas here. So again, back to video and audio recordings. They can create anything of themselves showing you how that they learn. They could become the teacher, become the stage on the stage, and give them the chance to share what they've learned with your class in a Zoom call. Screencasting, and I linked there to our Rockwood site. It's like a guide for screencasting, and I know maybe one of our instructional techs can chime in. I'm pretty sure screencasting, like the pro version, is free right now.
Yeah, it's free. I can put the link in the chat with the code to get it for free. I'll do that.
Thank you, Dana. So if you haven't done screencasting before, super simple. It's a way for a kid to show you what they're doing on their computer and then save it for you. Stop motion animation is super fun if you've never done it, and really easy. Kids love it. I used to do it in my class all the time, but it's just taking something that you've learned and letting the kids put it together, and you can use anything in your house to do it with. I mean, our first one that we ever did is like do whatever, make a pencil roll across the desk, but it's an interactive, creative way for kids to show you what they know and what they learned. You have a kid that's musically talented, let them write a song about it, and incorporate some of your other teachers to help do that, or get with some of your other classes to help do cross-curricular activities. They could create a PSA for you. You could do a design challenge, like a PBL design challenge. Give them something authentic. I love the fact that on the news I heard that a distillery in St. Louis decided to start using their byproduct and thought through it and came up with a way to make hand sanitizer in this situation. That was a design challenge. Think of something authentic that would work with your group right now. I know I was talking to Jen about her son designing a way that he could get his kayak from their house to the lake because he wants to fish. So think of a way to have them engaged with something you're doing in class. Draw, write, create, or argue a point of view with evidence. I loved one I heard the other day, and I think it was on a Jay McTighe call, that instead of saying like, what's the definition of this thing, a math teacher had their kids write an article displaying if they should have their grade calculated by mean, median, or mode. Basically, all they were doing is showing that they understood what those three terms meant, but they had to take a point, use evidence, and then support that with it. That's English, that's social studies, that's math, and that's science all together. Those are really important skills in all four of those. So it just happened to be with math content that time. So they can do any of these things in your classes. They're really presenting something. It's a performance-based assessment, and they're showing what they know in some way. So we wanted to include some next steps for you. Oh, actually, Jen, did you want to poll? Sorry. You're muted, Jen.
Hello, sorry, thank you. Just the same thing as now, what do we do with that formative assessment information? Same thing with the summative. Of course, we would want to share that mastery with students and highlight those areas for success and areas of growth. Allow that time for student self-reflection and allow them time for some reteaching. So, you know, even though you maybe did some formative work with them, maybe there's still pieces that they're missing that you really want to help focus on. So again, this is a great opportunity for some of that reteaching, or, you know, if it's a project that several groups did in a classroom, let some of the other students' groups reteach that student, or by watching those videos or watching however those students showed their evidence of learning, that might be how another student gets the concept or understands. So them doing and sharing their work is a huge way for that reteaching to happen. And then just offering multiple opportunities for students to demonstrate that mastery. Just like when we're in a face-to-face classroom, we want the student to keep doing it until we're sure they understand and they feel comfortable. Same thing in this instance. Give them an opportunity to do it again, or if they want to try something different as a way to show their evidence of learning. Give them that opportunity, give them that flexibility. Back to what we said at the beginning, be flexible. What a great opportunity, as some of us, you know, may not have to report a grade. I know middle school and high school are still trying to figure out what that's going to look like. That should be coming soon. Elementary, we're not doing report cards specifically, but they will still be giving some activities to do and giving feedback on it. So what a great opportunity to just try new things. You try new things, let students try new things, and see what happens. Some pretty amazing things have already been happening. So give yourself some grace, give your students some grace, and let them show you what they can do outside of those four walls. So thinking about summative assessment, I'm going to launch another poll. Oh, goodness gracious, hold on. My thing keeps disappearing here. Where are you? Oh, for goodness sakes. My button at the bottom is gone.
Is it on your other screen?
It's not showing up. Can you launch it, Alyssa? I know you, I don't, it's not, I can't see it. My black bar at the bottom that lets me launch and do all that stuff, mine's missing. Is yours there?
Yep, I got it.
Okay. Will you launch it?
Yep, got it.
Thank you. All right, so if you'll take a minute and choose how you're feeling right now about summative assessment or formative assessment, either one.
Ooh, we got some confidence going on. I like it.
And it's okay if you choose not at all. You're just still trying to catch your breath and figure out where your resources are. No worries. So have some that are thinking. Give about another 5 seconds. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and end and I'll share the results with you. Looks like out of, not everybody answered, but looks like 10 of you are feeling very comfortable and 5 are feeling somewhat comfortable, and no one is still just trying to catch their breath. So that's great. So I know I feel like I'm still trying to catch my breath. We're still just trying to figure it out day by day. So again, just another way to figure out what your students or the other people on your call are feeling and doing. So I'm going to stop sharing and we'll talk about what some of these next steps could look like, especially for if you're not feeling, if you're just feeling somewhat comfortable, what could you do next?
Yeah, and obviously after this call, you want to follow up with us. We would love to follow up with you. Our contact information is at the beginning slide. Follow up with your curriculum coordinators or your instructional techs to help kind of put some of these plans into, we would love to brainstorm with you through some ideas. So, but some next steps specifically for you is really, if you have not done it yet, get down to those essentials with your PLC. What's going to be happening going forward? Try an authentic assessment you've never tried before. This is a beautiful golden age. The silver lining here is that we have kind of some gift of time that we've never had before. We usually are on this train trying to get through curriculum, at least in science. I know I always was. And now we kind of have this gift. So try something new. And just be honest and open with your kids. I know some people are really hesitant to try new things with technology, but just say, hey, this is the first time I've done it. It may go well, it may not, and kids are going to understand that. So design a choice board, which will show you a resource for a choice board at the end. It's basically like giving your kids a bunch of options and letting them choose 1 or 3 or 2, however many things you want. off your choice board. So just coming up with a bunch of ways that they can show your learning, really voice and choice there. That we talked about an authentic design challenge already. Try and brainstorm one that could work with your curriculum or whatever it is, the essentials are that you're working with now. And just, if you do nothing else, just try something new with them. Try to assess it in a new way, reach them in a new way, give them feedback in a new way in this situation.
So we wanted to just take a couple minutes. We do have some of our experts in the room as well, so they could help answer any questions maybe we can't answer right now, and if not, we'll definitely find out for you. But what are some, how are you feeling? What are some things you're thinking about wanting to do? Questions do you have? You want to raise your digital hand, or if you want to just unmute yourself or type them in the chat. Feel free to do any of those.
No questions? Everyone knows everything? Ooh, Mary Kay?
Nope.
I hope you'll be able to hear. Okay, so I'm wondering how to use the Google Doc and let the kids record their voice. Is that what you said they could do in a Google Doc?
Yeah, they actually, and Jen might be able to go back to the slide it's specifically on. There's a linked video that Brian Reed explains in that linked video, or I guess Dana could try and explain it now if you know how to do that.
It's in here.
It's a yellow slide that has the word feedback highlighted, and that links to like a 40-minute video that Brian recorded, and that was part of that video.
Got it, thanks.
Yep, right there. The formative feedback now what slide. So when we share the slide deck with you, you can click
sorry.
Hi, Mary Kay.
Any other questions or comments or just things you're thinking right now? What are you thinking?
Ooh, Dana just dropped the voice typing inside of Google Docs into the chat too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dana. Anyone have like a really cool idea they're thinking about doing, or something they're thinking about trying, or that's different from, your regular in-classroom assessments?
And I had an idea.
And what was it?
So we have several students that didn't do very well on the last test, and to do a retest, I'm sorry about the lawnmower, to do a retest of just tutoring a couple times through Zoom, and then just doing a verbal with the 5 main concepts that we wanted the students to have from it.
Okay, so like a mastery conference, kind of like what we were talking about? I like it.
Yeah, shaking her head, yeah. What a great idea. The student doesn't have to get online to take a specific test, or, you can just by verbally having a conversation like you would in the classroom, be able to assess whether they have understanding.
I think we'll get more questions after tomorrow. I think they're going to let the middle school teachers know what form of grading practice we're going to use from those focus groups from yesterday. So I think we'll see a lot more questions coming in from our departments, like, okay, here's the version we're going to use. Now what do we do with it? So how do we assess? So
absolutely.
My math department's in a holding pattern.
I like your honoring Cardinals opening day too.
Absolutely, yeah. You got the background too.
I have my Cardinals earrings in. I put them in for today, so honoring today as well. But yeah, Adam, great point. I think, even regardless of whether we are having to give a specific grade, I think a lot of the examples here, we just try to focus on what does that feedback look like? How could we give feedback to our students? And so hopefully, regardless of a grade or report card, just honoring that principle number 3 is just continuing that instruction and giving feedback to our students. And it doesn't have to equate to a grade. I think a lot of people think, oh gosh, somebody said assessment, that means I got to grade it. And that's really not the case. And having the opportunity to try new things and to know you don't have to equate it to a point system. You're just connecting with your kids and letting your kids connect to the content that you want them to focus on during this time.
Is this PowerPoint available for us to grab too?
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to show you where it is.
Yep, I'll let Jen show you.
So So I'm going to let Elissa talk about some of these resources that are here that we have from just all the different webinars and videos we've been watching. But if you click on this, I'm going to click on resources, but in the ALP virtual locker on Canvas, where pretty much we've been trying to put everything so that everything's in one place, there's this best assessment practices. And this, if you click on this, this takes you straight to the presentation that we are showing you. And then this is that infographic that we're really focused on and how we created the presentation.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So Alyssa, do you want to talk about a couple of these other resources that are here?
Sure. So back here, again, like I said, throughout the entire PowerPoint presentation or slide presentation, there's a bunch of hyperlinks. Almost every picture is hyperlinked out to articles and things. But we just wanted to kind of put all the stuff that we were using in one place for you. So I made these buttons on the left, that 10 assessments that you can perform in 90 seconds. So they're quick formative assessments that you can do, just some ideas. Remote learning e-projects. So that's just a link to places you can get some ideas in your content area. That assessment choice board is the third one. That's what I was talking about, where you can provide them with a document, put 9 different assessment choices on there, and then let them say, hey, pick 2 of these and show me your learning. So this is a social studies example here.
And I like that this one, Jordan created this one, and I like that there's a choice board and they have to choose one of these that's DOK level 1, and then they have to, or DOK level 2, and then one of these or 2 of these, and then one of these that's a higher level DOK. So it's really scaffolding for the students in their understanding.
Yeah, and still giving them voice and choice. Like, I love that about that. Another one, going back to the slide, tips on engaging in e-learning. I know that's one of the things I heard again and again and again on those grading conversations is how are we going to engage kids, keep them engaged in what we're doing? So kind of purposefully making engaging activities. This golden opportunity, that's an article here. This one, the second one in the yellow one is a teacher that's an American teacher that's living in China and what they've learned from their first month of teaching like this. So it's kind of like a blog about just what they've been going through. The fourth one down here is from DESE. It's an article just like how to support in this COVID era. You know, what are some ways that we can help support teachers and students? And then off this last one's just some authentic performance tasks. So just a bunch of the examples, a bunch of resources we were using to put this together. We wanted you guys to have quick links to get your fingertips on those.
Questions about any of those resources or where you can find, again, it's on the Canvas course as well. It'll be linked there for you to go back to. All right, well, we thank you so much for joining us today and taking some time. Please feel free to reach out to any of us or any of your content coordinators or instructional technology specialists, coaches. We are all here to help you and support you. And if you, this is the same survey that's been out, this bit.ly/RSD ALPPD. This is where we got the data that said, hey, we need some alternative ways of assessing and what does that look like? And so that's where this was born from. So please know we're listening to you and we want to be here to support you in any way we can. And so if you don't have to fill out every single part of that survey, if there's just something specific you know you're needing and want us to know or something, a specific question, get it out there because all of us are taking a look at that and so that it's guiding what we're doing for you and with you.
Thank you guys so much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your help.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Have an awesome day.
Go Cardinals.
Go Cardinals. Thanks, Paige. Thanks, Megan. We appreciate you guys being here.